And we're back. Locks from Blue Tinted Glasses. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining.
Happy to be here, mate. Thanks for inviting me back on. I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. Apart from the international break, because we all hate the international break. Obviously, I'm Welsh and you're Australian, so we definitely hate the international break. So yeah, mate, not good.
I'm switching governments depending on how it suits me at the time.
Yeah.
Mate, I just want to talk about, obviously we've got plenty of time. We're bored. It's international break. And I just thought it'd be a good time to start talking about some of the youth and players that we have away on loan. And I just thought that, with the whole, we were sold on, to be fair, I'm trying, everyone says I'm negative. I'm going to try and not bash Cooper too much this. We just come off a win. How ugly it is, it's up to you. But he was brought in under pretense, Cooper, that he was going to play a similar style of football. He'd watched all our games, and he is good and renowned for developing youth. So one of the first big youth signings we made for, I believe, 5 million was Michael Golding, and he is now playing with our youth side. So it's still confusing to me. He was playing with the youth for academy for Chelsea, I believe, and now he's playing with ours. Do you think it's a shame that he did not go out on loan? Because I was screaming for it, and everyone said that, no, he's going to be a player for us, but he's not even making the bench locks.
Well, I mean, I was convinced that he was going to come in and be a bench player in his first year. And, the more I think about it now, the more it just stinks of a FFP loophole deal. We saw them all summer with like Amari Kellerman, I think went to Chelsea with Ian Matson coming the other way. We saw there was something involving Forest as well. I can't remember exactly who it was. There was Douglas Luiz to Juventus, and then it was Illing Jr. coming the other way. So there were a few of them deals. And to be fair, at the time, I thought they were early on in the window. And I thought, oh, well, Leicester needs to get involved in this because we're struggling with FFP. And yeah, the Dewsbury Hall, obviously, deal happened. And Michael Golding kind of came the other way as part of that. So I think that was the main reason for it. And Leicester probably thought, well, it's a good thing as well because we're getting an exciting, because he is meant to be an exciting young talent, in on the deal as well. So I didn't hate the signing. 5 million quid. I mean, it technically made the Dewsbury Hall deal 35 instead of 40, which is a little bit disappointing because I thought we should have got more than that. But yeah, I mean, the whole Cooper youth mogul is a big fat myth. It is a myth, and I think I even spoke to a Forest fan last week, and he even said, like, yes, he brought through or he developed a few young players at Forest, but he wasn't like dependent on youth. He wasn't bringing, exciting players through the academy and giving them a chance in the first team. And we've seen that firsthand now. I think, was it the Arsenal game? We ended a one, or it might be in the game before the Everton game. It was the Everton game. We ended a streak, like 140 games of having a player in the starting 11, a youth product. And then in the Bournemouth game, we ended a 200 and so much streak of having an academy product in the whole overall squad. So that's really disappointing, and not just from like the manager's point of view. That should be the club as well. The club should look at that and think, wow, like, this really, it's not a good sign. And the frustrating part in my eyes is that we have got some good, young players. I'm not saying they're world beaters or anything like that, but there are world beaters in there. There are future very good players in there. So, Will Alves is another one. You know what I mean? Like, where is Will Alves? He is meant to be, for the last 2 or 3 years, he's the one that Leicester fans have looked at and thought, this guy is like the future of Leicester City, long term. He's going to come in and be a really, really quality player. And he's just not, he's just been vacant. He's disappeared. He got a handful of minutes in pre-season. And he didn't even get on loan. And same, like you said with Michael Golding. So that's frustrating. Whether they're being kept for if there's an injury crisis, I don't know. I don't think it is that, because we had the problem with like when Buonanotte had like a bit of a groin issue, he was still making the bench. And then we were playing with 3 DMs. That's a good opportunity to throw in a Michael Golding or a Will Alves into the team, and give him a chance. And we just didn't see it. So I don't think we'll see. They don't even play in the cup, do they? They don't even play in the cup. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a myth. Steve Cooper hates. Well, yeah, Steve Cooper hates kids, which is probably better than loving kids. But yeah, he hates kids. So there we go.
Armchair jockey. All these young players should be on loan playing week in, week out. This is precisely why I wanted to talk about this. So, Will Alves is like Golding. You're bang on. Like, by the way, I think that the 5 million that we paid for him basically clears the first year of wages on FFP and Chelsea's books of Keenan Dewsbury Hall. So, that's good business done from them. Sean is in. How are you, mate? So that was, good of them, I guess. But like, I was hoping that there was going to be something that we had called for, but it's obviously the other way around. And then Will Alves is pretty much one of our most highly touted academy products after Dewsbury Hall. I think we could all agree. And it's unfortunate that he had that knee injury. And as Armchair was saying, they should be playing week in, week out. And that is much better for development, in my opinion. Which leads me on to my next person I want to talk about and someone, a lot of people turn their nose up at someone I always liked it when he came off the bench or when he played, Tom Cannon. Now, locks, it always seems like the answer when someone's not here and available, someone's come back from injury, they're the godsend hero that we need. But he's just scored 4 goals against Portsmouth. Some of them were amazing, like very, very clever runs. He's a physical striker. In my opinion, even the games he didn't score in the few and far between times that we see him under Enzo, every single one of his shots was on target, had a bit of steam behind it, even if it was straight at the keeper. I always rated him, to be honest with you, and I think he could continue to blossom well under Jamie Vardy's tutelage. What are your thoughts on Tom Cannon?
I really like him, and I liked him as soon as he came into the team last season. Obviously, he joined us on deadline day. He didn't play for a long time because he had like a stress fracture or something in the back. But when he came into the team, he looked quite good. He scored a couple goals. I'm not saying he scored loads of goals, but he scored a couple goals, and just his overall he looks like to me he seems like a traditional, like, old school striker. And I know we kind of bash like Steve Cooper or Leicester Fan TV for being too old school, but sometimes it's a good thing when you're on the pitch, because we don't want long ball hoofing it up 24/7. We don't want that from this Leicester team, but having someone as an option, I'm not saying he should be starting games over Jamie Vardy just yet, but I definitely think he should be on the bench ahead of Bobby Deck or Dovereed. I know he's not an out-and-out striker, but still, Jordan Ayew, Odson Edouard. I'd prefer Tom Cannon to Odson Edouard. I would. And yeah, just last season, I looked at him as like he's very much what I described him as last season was a shoot on sight striker. He just seemed to when he had the ball at his feet, he'd look up at the goal and he'd say, "This is on," and he just hit it. And I think he scored I can't remember who it was against last season, but he scored one just like that. And he just seems to have a range of different goals in his game. I mean, you saw the 4 he scored for Stoke last week. Like, they were all different goals. One was a free kick, one was a penalty, and then there were 2 great goals in there as well from open play. So it's a real shame that we've let him go. I think we all said this before he went. We said we should probably keep Tom Cannon around. Why is he not getting any game time? Steve Cooper moaned in pre-season that he didn't, he had to play Mavididi up front, and it's like, well, you don't, mate. You don't. You've got Tom Cannon on the bench, and then Tom Cannon actually came out on the weekend. I don't know if you saw it, and spoke and said that he had a chat with Steve Cooper, and Tom Cannon thought he could stay around and help the team, and Cooper disagreed and sent him out. So, yeah, terrorist Cooper strikes again, unfortunately.
Fucking orc. But yeah, Tom Cannon, I bang on agree with you. I would much prefer him over Edson Ottawa or whatever. He's got 2 first names. I think he's look. I don't want to slate him too much just yet, but like, he's on the list of donkey, like with Dakota Reed for me. But he's got absolute. I'm not going to repeat what Anil said and get you demonetized again, but he looks slow, poor first touch. I'm not sold on him yet, but I hope he comes good. But Tom Cannon, I would actually, if he carries on performing and scoring for Stoke, would you be happy? Would you be shouting to be recalling him in January?
Well, the recall option on loan deals scares me very, very much. And you know why. And I'm sure we'll talk about him in a bit, because we have a lone player in the team that could be recalled in January. And that frightens the hell out of me, because if he isn't in the team, I think we get relegated. I think he is the one keeping us afloat at the minute, along with the goalkeeper. But yeah, I would bring Cannon back. I would. Of course, we banter Daka and we say he's shit, and he is shit. But we have to see what he's like. Chance number 4 for him. He's got, never mind. Cats having 9 lives. He's got 4 lives, and this is his 4th life. I do think this is the final chance for Patson Daka. If I'm honest. So when he's back, I think he is coming back soon. I think he's back in training, or he's close to coming to training. So we've got to see how he is, because it looked in preseason like Cooper favoured him over all of the other strikers. But if he's gash like he has been for the past 3 years, then I think you have to look at Cannon and say, well, we've got a free player. We don't need to go and sign a striker. We've got one that we can just recall. So I think that's something that the club needs to look at. But I'd say still too early to say. On both fronts, I like Cannon, but he's only scored in 1 game, all 4 in 1 game. And on the other side, I don't like Daka, but he could come in and play really well. We just don't know, do we? Because we know what Daka's like. He's so unpredictable. He went on that little scoring run at mid-season last year, and then he turned back to Adiak and buy a bag of shit again. So we just got to wait and see, mate.
I've always thought Daka was a donkey. He sold us a dream with that Spartak game where he scored the 4 goals of his own, and we were all hyping. He looked like a really good signing as well when we first signed him from Red Bull Salzburg, I believe it was, and like we were proper hype. We were contending in the Europa League back then. That's when we were spending money, the likes of Samare and himself and Daka. So it hasn't worked out. But going on to look, Daka. And Neil from For Fox's Sake, if you haven't heard him already, please check him out. But I'm sure you have his furniture on both our channels. He reckons that Daka's decent for obviously his pace, but drawing a defender out, and that used to give our chance for our wingers to be able to overlap, make that run in, and under Enzo. But under Cooper, I don't know if he's going to go back to his off the shoulder runs and how it would be utilized in our donkey system. But it would be interesting. But I'm not keen on him. But look, let's hope he does well. Now let's talk about what you were just talking about, because I was going to bring it up. Buonanotte playing very, very well, and I'm also proper frightened that he gets recalled in January as well. What do you think, Locks? Do you reckon we get relegated? Do you reckon we don't replace him?
Yeah, mate, I'm worried about that big time, because he's been sensational. I don't know if you saw. I think he's also he's got like the most dribbles, or the most successful dribbles out of anyone outside of the big 6 or something like that. It's crazy. He's just an incredible player. He's going to be a top star in the future, in my eyes. I think he'll be a starter for Argentina. I think he'll be a starter for Brighton as early as next season. I mean, he played 20 games for Brighton last season. They obviously sent him out on loan. They brought in Matt O'Reilly, who's now injured. You need to remember that, mate. Matt O'Reilly's injured for quite a while. I know they've also got Gio Rota from Leeds, but he's inconsistent. It's like when you trust a fart and shit comes out. Like, that's what it is with Rota sometimes. So I just think that there is a risk that Buonanotte. I don't know, actually. I'm going to just quickly see how long Matt O'Reilly is actually out for. Because I think that does actually affect things. I mean, there's a player that we actually wanted right in the summer, Matt O'Reilly. Let's have a look. So 8 to 12 weeks. 8 to 12 weeks. So not too bad. Not too bad. But still, you never know what might happen. They might have a couple injuries to wide players or in the middle of the park, because Buonanotte can play both. So if that did happen, that they might want to recall him. Or maybe they don't have any injuries, or maybe they just think of him as someone who's playing really, really well, and they want to bring him back. I mean, we did it with Harvey Barnes. You remember, we recalled Harvey Barnes back in 2018. Claude Puel was having a bit of a shit time, and he brought back Harvey Barnes from West Brom, and he did okay when he came back. So yeah, that's the biggest worry for me, mate. That is honestly the biggest worry. I think that if we lose Buonanotte, I don't trust the club to replace him, and I don't think we could replace him really with anybody of similar quality mid-season. So yeah, I think it would really, really damage our chances of staying up if he was to go back.
That scares me as well. He's looking like a 40 million plus player, mate. I'm going to come back to the Bournemouth game briefly in a second, Sean. This is a good comment, but yes, I agree with you. I definitely lost 10 years of my life watching that last 20 minutes. Same for the Arsenal game as well. Locks, do you think we're going to, let's just address it now. Do you think we're going to spend money in January whether we lose Buonanotte or not? We're on a new 3-year term. Obviously, it's going to be dependent on how we're shaping up and where we are on the table. Do you think we're going to splash that cash?
Honestly, I don't know, because of Steve Cooper. That is the reason why. Because Steve Cooper, if I was John Rudkin or Top, I would be very hesitant to give any money to that man because of the shit. Well, some of the shit that he brought in the summer. I mean, I know Jordan I was, it was under 10 million. Decordova-Reid was free, of course, and of course there were some good signings there as well. But the Okoli one, I don't know how much of Cooper that was. That was quite early on, and an Italian centre back. Could it have been someone that Enzo had put the feelers out for before he left? Oliver Skip is a Cooper signing in my eyes, and I think he's done quite well since he's been in. So it's not all bad, of course not. But I mean, you look at a couple of the players that we missed out on in the summer: Sula, Matthias Sula, Wilfred Zaha, Fotis Ioannidis. They're 3 players who I think really are quite exciting signings, and we missed out. And if the rumours that have been circulating online over the weekend are to be true, that somebody met a player. Sorry, I shouldn't have said the guy's name. Someone met a drunk Leicester City player at the NFL in London. And he was slagging off Cooper and saying that he's in the middle, he's on the fence with everything, even transfers as well. Cooper to me doesn't seem like he's got a plan. Really, he doesn't have a long-term vision. So why would you trust that guy to bring in players and spend money on them? So, and I don't know where he would improve, mate. You know what I mean? Because he refuses to play Ricardo Pereira, right? He refused to play Ricardo Pereira. He goes with James Justin. So he plays VK, which I think Justin should be there, and Ricardo on the right. He plays 3 DMs sometimes. I know he didn't against Bournemouth. He's got, he wanted out Odsonne Edouard in, and he brought Odsonne Edouard in, and he's got Jamie Vardy. He sent Cannon out on the. I don't trust this guy to assemble a team worthy of staying up. Last season, at Forest, all the players were bought for him without much of a say, and he moaned, right? And now the players that he has brought in, they've been 50-50 really in my eyes. So, yeah, I don't know, mate. I mean, it's a nightmare. What players do I think we would bring anyone in of like much quality in January? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to be able to bring in anyone, because January's a hard enough window as it is, because clubs don't want to sell mid-season. So that's hard enough. But with Steve Cooper in charge, I mean, if I was a footballer and I walked into Seagrave, I'd be like, whoa, this place is amazing. Ah, who's that? Who's that?
There's a fucking orc in here. Yeah.
But so I don't know, mate. We'll see. But I'm not even, normally every window I'm like, yeah, spend as much money as you can. But now I'm like, I don't even think we should, because I don't want them to come in and be coached into the ground by that man. You know what I mean?
All right, let's get into it. There's a lot to get into what you just said, and some good comments here to top it off. Let's just start with this. Cooper has won in his last 20 consecutive Premier League games. Whoever hired this moron should be fired immediately. And then Sean's replied to that saying, "Thank Rudkin at top for Steve Cooper." That's, to me, the biggest problem. Going on to what you're saying about being worried about the signings, even if it wasn't January or not, I think there is something to be said for, I forgot the lad's name, our scout that's been doing our recruitment. What's his name? Glover, thank you. Glover's done decent. Finding the likes of, Fatawu and also like Mads Hermansen is definitely going to be our next big sale. I have faith in that, and I think that we should learn a lesson from what happened with the amount of money that we spent under Brendan Rodgers. Like that, there should be no influence from the manager too much on the signings that we make. But then that ties in perfectly into what we allegedly said was we want to sign a manager with a similar ilk of a possession style of football to build upon the foundations laid upon by Enzo. You know, he drained all the backroom staff. He even wanted all the youth playing the same way so they would fill in. And then we had Cooper come in and say that like I would love to be in a fly on the wall for that like interview process, because he said, "Oh, I watched every single game." And that's clearly bullshit. We've got all these players frozen out. Like, I can't believe Ricardo hasn't played like, that's just dreadful. And this is what ties in this comment here. Not this one, sorry. The biggest worry is those who want to leave on loan because they're not being played. Okay, so like Ricardo Pereira, for example, I think will want to move permanently if Cooper's still in charge in January. And to be honest with you, people won't like to hear this, but if it wasn't for Ricardo's injuries, I think he would have been gone 2 seasons ago. Easy locks. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, the start of 2020, just before COVID and just before his because obviously he got the ACL on the last game, actually, before COVID in the Villa game, the 4-0. I think he was the best right back in the Premier League, ahead of Kyle Walker, ahead of Reece James, ahead of Trent. Honestly, I thought Ricardo Pereira was the best right back. And there were big clubs after him. So yeah, I would agree. I think he probably would have left around that time. But you need to remember one thing here, mate, right? Which is very, very important. And it's that Ricardo Pereira also, allegedly, from what I've heard, had offers on the table when we got relegated. He had offers to go back to Portugal, to go to France, because he used to play in France. And I think he also had offers from Premier League clubs as well. And he actually stuck around. And again, from what I've heard from certain sources, if you like, not ketchup or mayo, but genuine sources, I heard that he said he wanted to stay because he wanted to, like, the club had shown faith in him with his injuries. He wanted to repay that. So he repaid us. And then what do we do the year after? We shit on him because we brought in an orc. So yeah, it's a big shame. It's a big shame, mate. I mean, at least, I mean, you know, at least be disrespected by Enzo. You know what I mean? A nice, bold, nice bearded, tactical genius, sexy Italian man. But no, he's getting done by an orc. You know what I mean? It's nuts. So no, I'm joking, by the way, guys. Before you get annoyed. So yeah, I really do worry that Ricardo this will also kind of bring an end to his spell, his time at the club as well. Because, like you said, if a Nils prediction, which he told me last night on Fox's Den, if that comes true, he said that he thinks we will stay up in 15th, 16th, something like that, and we will keep Steve Cooper until the end of the season. He did say we might sack him in the summer, but the end of the season. By that point, Ricardo might have already had offers on the table from other clubs. He might be already kind of agreed terms with someone else, and he might be off. So it's a shame. It's a shame because even though he's not in his prime anymore, even though he's not the player he was 4 years ago, he's a brilliant servant to the club. He's in my eyes, he is actually a club legend. Some will disagree, and I know some people think that we throw around that term easily. I actually think he is a club legend. And I think he's the best right back we've ever had at Leicester City ever. And now he's out the team. You know what I mean? He's out the team. So yeah, I feel sorry for him, and I feel sorry for us really as well. You know, us, we're the ones having to watch it and every week be like, "Where's Ricardo? Where's Ricardo?" And you know, at least Leicester Fan TV, they think that, well, because he played bad in the cup against Walsall, he shouldn't be in the Premier League squad. We should trust Cooper. So, yeah.
That's absolutely insane and goes to the whole problem with the system of Cooper and players not you being utilised. We've bought players in to fit a certain system, and this goes back to the board for assigning Cooper in the first place. How is the philosophy forward thinking, attacking football, we get Cooper? I've been called out for being narrow-minded. Even like a Neil said, he tries to see, and he says Cooper's not a horrible manager. We're somewhat defensively, you know, resolute, and you can kind of see what he's trying to do, but it doesn't build upon, again, the foundations laid under Enzo. So say we get to next season and we are not relegated and we're still with Cooper, are we taking a step in the right direction, or is it the same thing that's going to be said before this season is going to be for the next season? So I'll take 17th and I'll be happy. That's narrow-minded. That's not, look, people say that I need to be humble and be brought back down to earth, and this is little old Leicester, but like I still disagree strongly. I think that with the list that we have and a better manager, I genuinely believe we can go higher than that and build upon it and move forward. I'm not saying we're going to be contending for Europe in a season or two, but I just don't think we should be holding on season in, season out. We need to find a manager that's going to progress this team forward. And I just, unfortunately, I know we just won, but I don't see that. What I will say is of that Bournemouth game, the first half looked kind of similar. The back three was getting a lot further up the pitch. We're seeing Okoli, a player I would like to talk about in terms of youth players, starting to make, some really good line-breaking passes similar to Vestergaard. He turned the ball over once, but I believe that Okoli is one signing that I slagged off after the Lens game big time, and he's been impressing me more and more each game. I believe that with his age and just getting used to the English League or Premier League, it's fast, physical. The more time that lad has on the ball, the more comfortable he looks. When we get pressed, you sometimes see him panic and turn the ball over, but I would imagine that's to be expected with getting used to the Premier League. But Locks, what do you think? Like, with the likes of Winks now frozen out, Ricardo, even Fatawu to a certain extent, does that worry you? Like you said before, with like players not wanting to be here next season, I'm worried.
Mate, it's a nightmare for me. Like you said, I mean, Fatawu is, again, I didn't even think about him, but it's so true. I think that, like similarly what I said about Ricardo Pereira, Ricardo Pereira, it's the same with Fatawu, and maybe not even the fact that Fatawu might not want to leave. It's more like the development. Like, he's in the peak development stage now. I know obviously it's not his peak. That will be like 24, 25, 26, but in the development stage, this is where he has a chance to become a really good player, and he's not playing enough. And even if he was playing enough, mate, I think the level of coaching would be horrific. Even Brendan Rodgers, mate, would be a great manager for someone like Ricardo Pereira, Fatawu right now. Because he, no matter what we think about Brendan Rodgers and what he, how it ended with him at Leicester, he's actually a really, really good coach or developer of players. We saw him with like James Maddison and stuff like that, and Tillemans. He definitely helped them two players. So, and Justin, even, when James Justin did have his when he first came to the club, like, he developed really nicely under Rodgers. And at the moment we have Cooper in charge. And mate, I know we take the piss out of Cooper, and it is a little bit harsh and whatever, and a lot of it's banter, but his assistant manager is the biggest sloth. You know what I mean? He's even worse. So I think, that's who he's got helping him with coaching these players, which is really disappointing. So, going from Enzo Maresca to Steve Cooper it's and the coaching team in general, because you got to think some of these coaches that were with Enzo were from like the Man City group. The City group, they were top coaches. He brought them over. Even Caballero, I know he's an ex-goalkeeper, but even he is a good coach allegedly, and he's got, like, apparently people are expecting him to become a manager. So yeah, I'm really disappointed with that. It worries me. Fatawu was the one we all looked at the start of the season, or before the season started, and thought, well, we're putting all our hopes in it on a 20-year-old here, and that's just not how it's played out. I know he's not been great. In the games that he has played, I'm not saying that his performances deserve a start. I'm not saying that at all, because they have been very average. But again, it goes back to it, mate. System, I think. The system is a problem. You saw how good him and Mavididi were in that Enzo system. Very wide, being quite creative, getting balls into the box and all of that stuff. Fatawu, obviously, getting it on his left and shooting. But, I'm sure that Fatawu, it's got to be 50% of his minutes now have been off the left. And that's not on, really. That we know that's not his best position. He should be off the right. So, yeah, it's disappointing. I'm worried about a whole host of players, but Fatawu is one of the ones that I'm most worried about. Yeah.
Yeah, look, before we wrap this up, I'm 100% with you. And like I was saying the other day, like I feel like I could make, under the Cooper system, 2 to 3 starting 11s and have an argument with myself about why one should start over the other. And I think the biggest problem with that is really seriously because of Ndidi's undroppable. Skip, in my opinion, has been undroppable. And now Winks doesn't fit the system, which is a real shame. And then also, look, I'll say it again. I want to go back to playing a back three and a box midfield. I think we could do so much better. I think we could get more out of our wingers if we played like that and start attacking in fives again instead of three.
He's not, but he can't do it. It's above his mental capacity, I think. I'm not even trying to be a knob. Like, honestly, like I don't think he's got it in him as a manager to play that way. I genuinely don't. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing entirely. I'm not saying that football should only be played the Enzo way or one way, that type of style. I'm not saying that, but I just feel like it was it's a big contrast to what it was last year. And that's been a part of the problem in my eyes, because you've got now 2 or 3 players we know for sure, Ricardo, Vestergaard and Winks, we know for sure they're not happy with the change in style. And that is why they're the 3 now that were so important last year and aren't in the team right now. But then even if you look at the others, Fatawi, Mavididi, Mavididi was a big fan of Enzo. He loved that style of football. There was no way Keane and Dewsbury Hall was going to stick around. I keep hearing people say Dewsbury Hall had to go for PSR. Yes, but I think there was a chance he would have stayed, or he would have fought to stay if Enzo was in charge. When he saw the Orc come in the door, he thought, no, I'm gone. Get me, accept 5 million less, please. Let me go. You know what I mean? So I'll go work with Enzo at Chelsea. You know what I mean? So and it'll be Hermanson next, mate. It'll be Hermanson. He'll be off to Chelsea or someone like that very soon, I'm sure, as well.
That's what scares me. Now, look, only 2 players will defend this are Cooper and Victor Christensen. Victor Christensen, in my opinion, and what we've been seeing is has to be dropped. I know you were shouting for him before, but I can't comprehend what he brings to the side other than the odd maybe crosser to a game if we're lucky. I still think it should be JJ on the left and Ricardo on the right, but what do I know? Steve Cooper's an Orc.
I just, on that, again, we keep saying it. There's a theme here, mate. He's not helped by the system. That is literally it. I mean, I am a fan of VK. I do like him, but it doesn't suit him. Him and Mavididi don't get on at all on that left side, and that is why, I do think Justin should replace him there. If there was a change in system in the future, then I think VK has a good shot of actually coming in and being really good. But as it is at the moment, mate, there's no point of him being there, to be honest with you. So.
No, and look, so if Mads definitely, I think, will go next season, even if we don't get relegated, and we'll get big money for him. But it's about what we're going to do with that money and why I don't want. This is why I'm still not behind Cooper. And people keep saying, "Oh, you're negative," and give him a chance and give it 10 games. To me, the writing's on the wall. There's no progression. We yet to put in a 90-minute performance, and he's now fell out of players already. And players that, as you just mentioned, were all integral to us last season. Ricardo Pereira stuck around. He was loyal. I thought he was going to be captain this season, out and out captain, week in, week out. He was my player of the season. I think Solacek, if he came good from his injury, would do a job. And I would not be, obviously wouldn't be no Mads Hermansen, but I do think he's a decent shot stopper. He's not as good as his feet, but we haven't even had a chance to see that much from Mads Hermansen, unfortunately, this season. But boy, has he been stepping up as a shot stopper. But 50 million easy. Locks, before we go too far down the rabbit hole of bashing Cooper again, do you have anything positive to say about Cooper?
He dropped Winks and it was the right call. There's a positive. It was the right time to drop Winks. I think he gave him a fair chance in the starting 11 for the first few games. I just think he went missing a lot of the time, and he's not good enough defensively as well. Whereas Oliver Skipp can kind of do both sides of it. He can defend, and he also can. He's got high energy. He can get up the pitch quite high. Wilfred Ndidi can do the same. So, and then you've got Buonanotte in the 10. So I think the midfield 3 was actually spot on from Cooper. So there's a bit of praise for him. Other than that, mate, I'm not sure really what there is. I mean, we successfully saw out a 1-0 win on the weekend, which was, again, another positive. I don't think we deserved to win 1-0. I think we deserved to maybe lose 2-1, if I'm honest with you. And we got a bit lucky. But I'm not going to use that against Cooper just yet because we won. It would be unfair for me to do that because in the Palace game, I said he made the wrong decision going so defensively because we ended up drawing. We conceded 2. And I said, if it works, then we'd be praising him. So it did work against Bournemouth in the end. So I will praise him for that. But it's not sustainable in my eyes. So I think it will do more harm than good, really, long term. If that is how he approaches a lead, we need to get a 2-goal lead. We can't just sit back on the one and just hope they don't score, or hope they hit the woodwork a few times. We need to go at them and score a second. So yeah.
I'm with you. I'm sick of sitting back and holding on to it. We saw Brendan do that towards the end as well. It used to drive me absolutely crazy. I felt more confident being a goal down than I did a goal up. Just before we wrap this up, we've got this is their run of games after the break. We've got Southampton against Russell Martin's suicidal high line. He's a watered down Brendan Rodgers. Surprised he hasn't been sacked yet. This is a game that I do fancy, depending on how we shape up. Then we've got Forest at home. I'm a bit nervous about that, to be honest with you, but I am excited. United in the Cup, Ipswich, I think will come good. And then we've got United. I think Ten Hag will be long gone by then. He could be long gone today, from all accounts are correct. But starting this Southampton game, talk to me, Lawson, about how you're feeling and how much of a must-win is that for us?
Well, this is it, mate. I mean, when we were losing against Fulham and Villa, and we were drawing against Palace, certain fans were telling me, "Well, yeah, we can't expect to be beating these teams. You have to look at the mini league, So here's the mini league. Southampton. There we go. They're bottom of the mini league. Well, I think are Everton still bottom? No, Southampton are bottom, aren't they? So. Or Wolves, one of the two. Anyway, but Southampton are the worst team, basically, in my eyes, the worst team in the league. So if we don't beat them, it's a disaster. And we've only got possible 6 points against Southampton this season. So if you start off with just 1 or 0, that's a disaster. So similarly with Ipswich, I know they're a bit of a better side than Southampton, but you have to beat them. I agree with you on Forest. I'm not sure on that one, mate. To be honest with you, it could go either way. However, we have to get 6. Like it has to be 6 from those 3 games. It has to be. And if it's not, I mean, if it's 3, you'll get fans saying that's a good return. The worst thing is I saw. Wait till you hear this, mate. This is wild, by the way, on a certain fan channel, by a certain host of a certain fan channel. They said that they would be happy with 2 points from those 3 games. 2 points.
That's disgusting.
Because
coward leadership.
Because you have to draw your away games. That's what he said. It doesn't matter if it's Man United away, Man City away, or Southampton away. You have to just draw your away games. So he'd be happy with 2 points. I mean, what like all that person is doing by saying that is he's only saying that so that if we do only get 2 points, he'll say, yeah, that's okay, that's all right, and so you can't bash Cooper. But like, if you don't win both Ipswich and Southampton, I think you're well within your right to bash Cooper and call him out, because they are the 2 that you have to win. So Forest, I'm not writing Forest off, but I don't think we'll win.
If we get past Ipswich and we've won none of those games, disregarding the cup game, surely Top will have a set of nuts on him. We'll be like, listen here, bro, like, we've got no more time for orcs here in the King Power. You've got to go.
I don't think he will. Well, I don't know. The Bournemouth game, I think, bought him 5 games. I think that win has bought him 5 more games. That's what I'll say.
I don't want us to lose. Every point counts, and they will all tally up at the end of the season. But I'm agreeing with you. They did save in time, and I was just like, shit. Like, if we had to get rid of him at any time, like I said, I want us to win. I want us to do well. I don't want us to have to waste money. But like, as someone mentioned in the comments earlier, you pay cheap, you pay twice. But had we had to sack him, it would have been best to have done it now, because it would have had the international break to integrate, get some training into the lads, get you a new style across. But hey, let's hope that we can survive this season and then maybe sack the Orc men. Locks, anything else you want to say before we wrap up this Steve Cooper bashing session again? I knew it would happen. I tried to steer away from it.
It's inevitable. It's so hard. And look, like, people will say it's harsh. And, a lot of the things we say is harsh. But, don't give us reason to be harsh, is what I'd say. I know it's easy for us to say that, but it's just, we've given a couple bits of praise here, which I think he does deserve with the whole Winks thing and the Bournemouth win. He deserves, the team and Cooper deserve praise for those things. But it doesn't mean just because we won a game, we can't also criticize, and I still think it's unsustainable. That's just how I see it, how we're playing and how the results are going. And I said it on Fox Den last night, mate. Let's just wait until the other teams sack their managers, right? When the other teams start sacking their managers, that's when things get interesting because of new manager bounces. There'll be an uplift in form. If I don't think Southampton will sack Martin, but I've seen rumours today that they are going to if they lose against us. If they sack him, I don't think Ipswich will sack McKenna under any circumstances. But Wolves, when they sack Gary O'Neill, when Everton sack Dyche, you got to look around at what managers they bring in. And I guarantee you, mate, if Southampton sack Russell Martin, if Wolves sack O'Neill, and if Everton sack Dyche, all three of them clubs bring in a better manager than Steve Cooper. All three of them. I guarantee it. And that's the worrying part.
And then if we sack Cooper after that, and one of those managers, let's say hypothetically, like just remove what's happened with Potter and saying no and stuff like that. Like, we don't know all the ins and outs. Apparently wanted to bring his staff in. It was too much money. Then we had the FFP hanging over our head. But like, I would take him now, honestly. But like, let's say one of them were to pick up, because I believe he is in the Midlands, Potter, isn't he? So it'd be easier for him to go to Wolves. That's our chance missed out on a potential decent manager. And then they're ahead of us. So I'm with you there 100%. Head losses bang. The fan TV pissing me off when I stop watching him. No names thrown here. Locks. Yeah, let's just, I don't know, mate. It's just Steve. Like, look, people say I'm harsh on Steve Cooper, calling him an orc and that he could eat an apple for a tennis racket. I'm a small guy from Australia doing Leicester City content. I'm sure Steve Cooper will never hear this and will give two flying fucks of his millions of pounds of dollars in the bank, worrying about what some painter in Perth has to say about his teeth.
Oh, we'd both rather be in his situation. Of course we would. So yeah, it's fine. But yeah, I don't know, mate. It's just one of them. I think the longer he's here, the more in trouble we are. And Anil disagrees. Anil does disagree, but I think if he keeps us up, we will keep him for the following season. I really do, because I don't think Top's got the balls to say, because Top is a coward as well. So I don't think Top has the. He's a cat, mate. Honestly, he's probably the biggest coward of them all. Trust me on that one. I think Top doesn't have the balls to say, all right, you kept us up. Thank you very much. But it's time to move on to a different, if Dean Smith kept us up, we would have kept him. I'm guaranteed we would have kept him. Definitely. And, and that wouldn't have been the right call. So yeah, Top the Cook will keep Cooper in charge. And if we start him, but I could be wrong, of course. Anil disagrees, and Anil's a much smarter guy than I am, so you don't know.
Yeah, we keep referencing him like he's our teacher. Neil said this, and Neil said that. He's like the older brother. That scares me. Him staying past this season frightens me, relegated or not. But look, we can't all get what we wish for. Locks, mate, I've taken enough of your time, mate. Thank you for everyone in the comments. What have you got coming up, Locks?
Tomorrow night I will have a live, probably about 6 or 6:30. Probably about 6:30. Which will just be, well, I'm not 100% sure just yet. We'll find out soon enough. But yeah, it will. There'll be some kind of show tomorrow night at 6:30. And then yeah, just a couple bits over the weekend as well. Sunday morning, hopefully if you're free, you and Anil will join. Good morning, Foxes. Obviously, it didn't happen last week because I was away, so hopefully we'll have that and discuss a few different bits on Sunday morning. So yeah, and Foxes Den, of course, came out last night. That was live, so that's available on the channel. Arthur, who is a member of my channel, in the chat. I don't think he was there last night for Foxes Den in the chat. So Arthur, if you want to go watch it back, go watch it back. It was a very good one.
Shout out to Arthur, no worries, and yeah, RIP to Baldock. Very, very tragic news, and heart goes out to him and his family. Anything else, guys? Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Everyone that's come over from Blue Tinted Glasses, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed our Steve Cooper bashing session number 3. Hopefully, we don't have to do it again. Take care and have a good week. 4 coming, maybe.
Sunday morning.
Maybe. See you later.